4D Morning Express.
Good morning.
Knowledge is power. Information is key. And that is why we aim to unlock the doors of opinion, unveiling the stories that need to be told. The Morning Express on Mainland 98.3 FM from 5 a.m. to 11 a.m. as we invoke the thought-provoking discussion, tackle the tough questions, challenge assumption, and give a voice to the unheard. This is the Morning Express on Mainland 98.3 FM.
Welcome on board the Morning Express.
Good morning.
Good morning and welcome to the morning show here on Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. Happy Easter celebration. I can only hope that the holiday sort of gives you something of an intermission from the everyday reality of Nigeria. Please take advantage of the break, spend time with your friends and your family, eat in moderation, and tap into the theme of the season, which is restitution. My name is Sage Babalola. You're listening to Trends in the Papers. We're looking at our newspapers, we're looking at the dailies, what is there for us to analyze, what is there for us to talk about, what updates have trailed stories that we've been dragging pretty much since the start of the year up until this very moment. We're going to do a very quick look or proceed into a very quick look of the newspapers. We would highlight the front page stories. We would note the broader implications of these headlines, of course. And so we ask that you please head on straight to our Facebook and YouTube channel where we're streaming live, or you can listen via our website www.mainlandfm.com. I should, of course, highlight we express our deepest apologies for the disruption on Radio Guardian as well as the website up until this very moment. We realize that quite a number of you listen via the aforementioned platforms, and so we can understand how very uncomfortable it must have been for you being unable to use those platforms. We're working on it, and hopefully in another few hours or days perhaps we're able to rectify that situation. But until we're able to do so, please, you can listen via your traditional radio, Mainland 98.3 FM, right? And or you can join us via the live stream, as I mentioned earlier, which is Facebook and YouTube. I'll do a brief rundown of what the papers broadcasted over the weekend and then use that to usher us into the stories that we have for us today. Once again, you are on to Mainland 98.3 FM. My name is Sage Babalola. You're listening to Trends in the Papers, a segment of the Morning Express. Let's look at weekend stories. We're starting with the Punch newspaper. ADC crisis. Governors, lawmakers shelf defection. Serap sues CCB over Electoral Act, new tax law. Easter. CAN chairman condemns Taraba violence, urges unity. Allowance, doctors beginning definite strike Tuesday. Army debunk attack on Sokoto Catholic Cathedral, Kuka's home. Wike under fire over threats to shoot TV anchor. Terrorist kill 5 in Borno IDP camp, police station. We move now to the Guardian newspaper. The weekend reports are as follows. 2027, Governor Yusuf vows to galvanize support for Tinubu's re-election in Kano. Atiku camp slams Wike, warns of authoritarian drift under Tinubu. LASMA probes 100,000 naira extortion allegation on Lagos Coastal Road. ADC crisis. INEC should have recognized Nafiu Bala, says Wike. And for the Vanguard, finally, 2027 crossfire. There is a plot to truncate ADC, says Kenneth Okonkwo. ADC takes democracy concerns abroad, appoints envoys to engage foreign governments. Iran war, health sector under pressure as drug prices surge 30%. I beg your pardon. Surge 30%. 2027, Tinubu has been preparing for decades. I have no doubt he will win again, says Senator Remi Okunriboye. You are not the court. ADC slams INEC chair, vows to hold Congress. And finally, thank INEC for timely derecognition of your leaders, Keyamo tells the ADC. We'll proceed now into analysis. Our in-house analyst Fuad will be joining us for that particular area of conversation. As we look at the stories, we will get Fuad to sort of expand on it a little bit, talk to us about what it means, and Of course, after analysis, we get to the point where we open the phone lines and give you a chance to either agree, disagree, or bring on fresh perspective. It still trends in the papers, Milan 98.3 FM. We're going to sort of look at weekend stories. A lot of things happened over the weekend that I would like us to address before we talk about stories from this morning. In fact, I'm going to play you a few sound bites, and then we will get Fᴜᴜ to speak on these matters before we start looking at the stories from this morning. Don't go anywhere.
Visited. You have no light at the airport, and I have to fly back within the next 10 minutes. To you leaders, I've had this. To the victim, there's nothing I can give you, whether money in billions, but to console you and promise you that this experience will not repeat itself. I take, for example, Favour Roda.
Good morning, Fᴜᴜ. Happy holidays. I trust you're well.
Good morning, Sage. How are you doing?
I'm well.
Happy holidays to you too.
Well, we're here. We're here to do our job regardless. We don't often benefit from these public holidays. We're not complaining. I am, but we generally are not complaining.
So what are you doing?
I'm just stating an obvious fact. Please,
Okay.
It's a bottle. It's half. This glass is half full. It's not half empty. Context in this part.
It's a contextual thing.
Yes.
No problem.
I'm not complaining. I'm just highlighting that we're not benefiting from the holidays.
It's okay. We signed up to do the job, so should we be complaining?
No.
It's a job we love to do, really. So.
Who is we? Fᴜᴜ, before you came on, I had started the conversation, and I believe you actually heard it. That was the president in Jos. Now, a lot of controversy had trailed the visit of the president, the condolence visit. A lot of analysts had asked questions, is the president going to go there? He eventually went, but many are still very uncomfortable with the way things played out. Now, he did not go into the town where this vicious attack had happened. Some of the victims or the families or the bereaved were brought to him at the airport where he addressed them. The complaint, or should I say the discomfort from this whole arrangement, mostly stems from a few statements that sort of accompanied the president's entire speech. For example, the part where he says, well, there's no light at the airport, I have less than 10 minutes to be here, and that part a lot of people has interpreted as highly insensitive. Even if you were in a rush, it's inappropriate to tell people that you're coming to condole with, that you cannot spend that much time with them, and also to bring the bereaved to you is also highly insensitive. The optics don't look good. Although his broader speech, he did talk about how nothing he does can make it better, but he promises that something like this will not happen again. A promise that almost immediately failed, because 24 hours later there was still an attack in another local government area in Jos, where I think about 3 people were killed. So Fᴜᴜ, I want you to talk to us about the reaction of the Nigerian people, those who say comments credited to the president, like, I have less than 10 minutes to spend here, there's no light in your airport, I'm gonna have to leave as soon as possible, that sort of ruined the entire purpose of him going to Jos, and he might as well not have visited them.
Okay, well, say that if you listen to us yesterday on Political Roundtable, like Barrister Curtis said yesterday, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is not just the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, he's also the empathizer-in-chief. And so it's just commonsensical to begin to ask ourselves some of these pertinent questions. And I keep telling a lot of people who think that they love the president to a point where he can never make mistakes. To them, nothing can ever be wrong about whatever he does. I'm like, we were all in this country and we all knew the standards that we held Jonathan to, if you understand what I'm saying. Even Mr. President himself, we have enough social media commentary, statements, where he himself had questioned the capacity of Jonathan to deliver as president. And some of the things he highlighted, we are even seeing far worse ramifications of some of those things. And so you ask yourself, was it just about being in the opposition? Now that you are in charge, what has changed? So I understand perception. I would always say it. I know that no matter what we say here, if you listen all through to our show yesterday, somebody even called and said that, look, Mr. President can talk to them from anywhere. He does it that. In fact, Mr. President should have first think first of his own safety, and that there was nothing wrong. That look, what he had done is okay. If you know that, I'm like, so if Mr. President, who is supposed to be the father of the nation, is more concerned about his own security, then what happens to the helpless people of Jos who face this thing? So so I understand perception, and you can't help someone who does not want to help be helped. The reality is that perception is key here, and the optics was terrible, was extremely bad. It would have even been better if he had not gone, Sage. I'm telling you, because this idea of saying, oh, there's no light at the airport, I just have 10 minutes here, for me was unfortunate, very, very unfortunate, And we're just talking about basic common sense here. It's not anything too extraordinary. Like Barrister Curtis pointed out yesterday, for the few minutes that the president spoke, he was spot on about his statement, the fact that there was really nothing he could have done, or nothing he would do now that can bring back those that have been killed. No matter the money it gives them, it cannot be enough to replace, those that have lost their children. You understand? And that, look, he will be doing what's needed to be done to ensure this does not repeat itself. I think there was a time he told the governor to also liaise with him to see how they can help the families, whatever they can do, knowing that it can never be enough to compensate for the loss of their loved ones. So, look, but again, maybe if he had not mentioned that he had 10 minutes, maybe he would not have even paid attention to the time he spent, right? Maybe the conversation would have been that, why did you just stay at the airport? But all in all, I think we can do better. I would hope that the analysts of Mr. President would understand that, look, in things like this, perception is key. It's very important that we pay attention to these little details, because again, he has a way of generally reflecting on the nature and perception of the government. So I won't say more than that.
Indeed. Well, unfortunately for us, the funeral for the young man, Ayuba, the video that had gone viral, happened over the weekend. The sad part of it is that the funeral happened on the woman's birthday. His mother, her name is Rhoda. His funeral happened on her birthday. I did follow through on social media, and she was talking about how today that was supposed to be a celebratory day for her. Unfortunately, she's burying her child, and she's an orphan too. She doesn't have parents. Her husband also passed, so it's a single mother scenario, raising children, and then
a widow and an orphan.
A widow and an orphan. So I think that's why her story really cut deep into the heart of everybody. Obviously, her family is not the only victim, but the peculiarity of the loss and her own past also made it so much hurtful. And we hope that God grants her the fortitude to bear this particular loss. Well, for that, I was talking about attack that has actually followed that one. In Plateau, about 3 people were killed as well, and we also have attack that happened in Benue, Katsina, and Kaduna as well. I think cumulatively about 16 people have died. That's the current death toll, right? And it was on Easter. Mind you, there was information, I can't remember the organization that had put out something of an advisory or a warning that attacks are imminent in certain parts of the country, especially with this celebratory period. And our security agents have said, well, they're going to have security on standby to minimize casualty figure. People should try not to be in large gathering, but all these warnings and all these advisories did not do anything really, because 6 16 people were killed as they were celebrating Easter. Before I get your commentary for that, I want to play you something from Christopher Musa on insecurity, and then it would really help us to broaden this conversation a little bit more. Please stay tuned.
Everybody should support terrorists in whatever forms. Those guys don't mean anybody well. If you think you are trading with them and you are getting money from them because you think you will be getting is blood money, and you are going to account for that. Some of us, we have some of our traditional rulers, some of our religious leaders that tend to make comments that seem to be encouraging these people to continue to kill people. They should understand. The friend of a thief is a thief. Your comments, anybody that's killed because of your comment, you are sharing into that body.
And Fuad, there's a reason why I ushered us into the conversation like this, because of the, should I say, contradictory position that our military or our security heads are taking on this subject matter. There seems to be a very distinct strategy between the Office of the Minister of Defense, Christopher Musa, and that of the Chief of Army Staff, Oluyede, in terms of dealing with insurgents. We have a Chief of Defense Staff, just like the National Security Advisor, who believes very strongly in Operation Safe Corridor, rehabilitation, reintegration, right? They go as far as calling them prodigal sons, that if they come home, we would welcome them. But the Minister of Defense is of the opinion that an offensive is the way and the truth and the lies. There's no synergy within our security architecture. So how then can we really expect an outcome if they all have different approach to the problem of insecurity in the country?
That's a problem. That's actually the problem, Sage. It now appears that, look, among the security heads of the country, there seems to be that lack of synergy. It's an obvious lack of synergy, because you have the you have the Minister of Defense, who was himself a former service chief, insisting, that has always been his position anyway, Sage, that look, these guys don't mean well. There can't be any repentant insurgent. These guys, the only thing that should happen to them is elimination. And I think he's been consistent on that. But if you look at what the Chief of Army Staff is saying, what the National Security Advisor is posturing and understanding on the issue, is that, look, there should be this Operation Safe Haven, Safe Corridor, what have they called it, you know. I tried to listen to the spokesperson of the Nigerian Army, who was trying to explain that, look, why they think some of these guys can be reintegrated is that, look, not all of them have tasted blood. And I really don't understand what that means. That some of them were actually abducted, and that, look, it's not as if they were active participants in what these guys are doing. And so when they come out, they escape or something happens and they rescue them, it's just normal that they have to be reintegrated and not be considered as one of the active players. But the question is, how do you know? How do you profile these people? Do we have enough facts to really, do we have what it takes really to do proper profiling? Sage? Because again, a lot of these communities say that some of these guys, when they come in, they become sleeper cells, right? They help to pick information, because the reality is that these guys don't just attack communities. They must have a way of also picking information from these communities. So, and that's why we keep saying that, look, the buck stops at the desk of Mr. President. At the end of the day, he is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. So whatever he tells them to do is what they will do. If he says, you know what, as far as I'm concerned, under my watch, there's no repentant Boko Haram, no repentant insurgent, no repentant bandits. Once you see them, eliminate them. That's what will happen. It becomes the final order, if you understand what I'm saying. And when he begins to see that his orders are not being followed through, he has the right to fire them. And that's why some of us are asking the very pertinent question of when he will be sacking or firing the National Security Advisor. Because look, if you look at the state of insecurity under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, I don't understand. Somebody should make it make sense to me. Why the National Security Advisor is still keeping his job? Yes.
I'm sorry, I just want clarification. The Minister of Defense, does he have the authority to fire the NSA, or it's just the President?
Well, he can make recommendations. The President has the final take. He gives the final order. You understand? That's why he's the commander-in-chief. He can, if he decides that he wants to fire everybody today, everybody's gone. But the reality is that, look, no matter what the Minister of Defense says, the National Security Advisor has to have an input. You understand what I'm saying? You also have the Nigerian Intelligence Agency. So it's a lot of web of, because again, Mr. President takes these briefings. One would expect that on a daily basis, he takes security briefings. And who are the people that briefing? The NSA, the NIA director, the Minister of Defense, the service chiefs, that's supposed to be the standard, that look, on a daily basis, he gets an update on operations, on incidents around the security in the country as the chief security, as the commander-in-chief. So if he decides that he's going to fire them, he fires them and nothing happens. But not firing them means that whatever happens too, he takes responsibility. And that's why I look at people who try to deflect, who a lot of times when these things happen, he's not Mr. President. Look at one of the former governors of Plateau State who was trying to be politically correct. That, they told the president that, look, it is only the people of Plateau State that can solve the problem. Look, the reality is that if the people of Plateau State refuse to solve the problem, that's why we elected the president, to force them to solve the problem, to force them to stop killing themselves, to put systems in place to ensure that people don't kill themselves if they are so unreasonable to continue to kill themselves. That's what government does, right? The reality is that people are not born or wired to obey the law. You must force them to obey the law. So in the case of insecurity, if you continue to have perpetrators of insecurity, troublemakers in the land, that is why you have a government, to ensure that there's an enforcement, that ensures that people stop killing themselves.
Well, Fuad, this stick and carrot approach, it would seem that we've run out of carrot, and it's about time we start wielding the big stick, honestly, because people are dying in their numbers. I
don't honestly say, just imagine the idea of, the Minister for Communications is here, was the Bosho Tijani, and that, look, you should install 5,000 CCTV cameras. How does that solve any problem, Sage?
Fuad, the identity of these individuals, we have a Sheikh Gumi who says it's not clandestine. We know who these people are, and as long as nobody has come out to debunk that claim, we will just assume that silence means acceptance, right? So you
now ask yourself, so what does CCTV now do when a Sheikh Gumi comes out to tell you that, these guys, we know them, we know their location, we know them by name. Oftentimes when I visit them, I don't go alone. I go with security operatives, I go with representatives of government. So what is it that CCTV will do that amount of information will not have done?
I really wonder. They're the only ones who can explain to us the logic behind the AI-powered cameras. I don't get it, because identity has never been the problem. These
are guys who are on social media, who make calls, right? Who put out videos. I don't know. Is it about identifying these persons, or the fact that, look, we just have to have the political will to do the right thing? Enforcement. We are not short of laws, The question is, do we have the political will to do the right thing? Enforcement of the law. Arrest people and punish them seriously, no matter who they are and who they are linked with. Can we do that? Do we have the political will to do that? That's the question we should ask ourselves.
Well, Fuad Said, it would seem like as journalists, having an opinion might perhaps get you a few threats here and there. And I will play you another soundbite and then use that to broaden the conversation a little bit more. Please be patient with us.
When I was watching politics today, so if there was any way to break the screen, I would have shot him. I'm coming murder. If I fit to get to him. Let me tell you. No, so what I'm saying. No, the point I'm saying is how you can take yourself, the interviewer, saying that we cannot allow this only one party to do. Look, I said, what is this? I'm calling you an interviewer. You are not telling them your own view that I can be there and make it to allow one party in this country who will not. I was just taken aback. I know that's the point I'm trying to make. There's nothing wrong. You are there and asking questions. How would people have allowed this kind of thing to happen? Now you are not the one coming out in a national television making that kind of which means you've already taken a position which is not right. That's the point I'm trying to make. So I'm not going to absolutely going to what I'm trying to say. The anger that how could an interviewer, the anchor person, be making such a statement?
what side, just last week, another of our colleagues at a different station was being told that she perhaps did not understand the situation in the country because she's always
doesn't leave the studio.
And now we're having a minister who says that, well, if I had an opportunity, I would have shot another journalist because he took a position which came off as him being biased. Now, I deliberately played a little bit forward so people don't say you only played one part and you didn't give him a chance to explain. Even after the Ḥemwo Kimbaloye did comment on this and said, well, I'm not afraid of you. I'm a Nigerian. Before I'm even a journalist, I'll look for his response. We've also gotten news that Wike and his media team has also reached out to Ḥemwo Kimbaloye to clarify that he didn't mean he was literally going to shoot him. It was just hyperbole, and he was using it to express his displeasure that Ḥemwo Kimbaloye seemed to have taken aside because he said that we should not allow for a one-party state, and the beauty of democracy is diversity. Fuad, I'll just get your opinion on this so we move forward.
Okay, well, it's very unfortunate that everyone wants to teach us our job, right? We don't try to teach doctors their jobs, right? We will not attempt to, teach other professionals how to do their jobs. We can make observations, we can make commentaries, but not to specifically, for example, tell a surgeon how to do a surgical procedure, right? Because that's not our job. The aftermath of the surgical procedure, the processes may be something for public discussion, but you see that a lot of times we'll also refer to experts who are in the field, who make commentaries to say, okay, well, this is our own idea on it. So you have this idea of everybody wanting to gaslight, intimidate, harass, threaten journalists. And a lot of times they want to even tell you how to do your job. That's why sometimes you see some people calling to say, oh, maybe you are a journalist. So you remind me that I'm a journalist. Oh, you have to go and do investigative journalism. Do you even understand what investigative journalism is? So it's just one of the things that, every trained, prominent journalist must be ready for. You must be threatened. You must be harassed. Because again, these are guys who don't want to hear the truth. And the job is not to make anybody happy, says. Our own job is to speak truth to power. Our job is to hold the government accountable. So there's no way you speak truth to power and hold the government accountable and don't expect that they're going to fight back, directly or indirectly. Yes, I've listened to Ḥemwo Kimbaloye's remarks, his response, spot on, very measured, well measured. That was very brilliant for him to say, look, even the minister has reached out to him to clarify things, which makes it a lot of sense. Because again, one would have thought that he was going to sit on his high horse and continue to insist that, look, so be it, he has said what he wanted to say. So we must commend Wike and his team for at least reaching out to Ḥemwo to clarify things. But I think that, look, one of the greatest problems of this minister is that he has no restraints, no control. He has no control. And the media chat has lost all relevance, really. It's become completely useless. I understand why our colleagues would always go before him to ask him the questions that will make him happy. Half of the time, he will not even allow them to ask him questions. It dominates the conversation. It is because that in itself is not even journalism. That's public relations, right? I've told a few friends, when you see a politician call for a media party and it is paid for, and it takes over the conversation, you are not allowed to do your job professionally the way you should do it. That's just PR. That's no journalism, really. So when I see the media chat, I know it's just a PR stunt. And that's why you see that, look, as professional, some of these guys are our senior colleagues. Some of them were in school when they started journalism. So I know they know what the job entails. They know how they should do the job. But I think one of our very senior journalists too, colleagues too, have explained that, look, what do you expect us to do? On the average, for just appearing at a TV station, you are paid about 6-7 million naira. And then if you have about 10 TV stations, then you are talking about almost 70 million for him to sit down there like an emperor to say whatever he wants to say. You understand? So because of the nature of the kind of interview, you see that he doesn't have any restraint. He just says whatever he wants to say. And I'm sure that when he made that comment, some of our colleagues, very senior colleagues were laughing. I really don't know what was funny about the whole situation. But I don't think we should overflog the situation. We will never be intimidated. We can never be cowed. We can never be distracted by, whether politicians are happy or not happy about what we are doing. As the fourth estate of the realm, the training is that, look, you must hold them accountable. You must speak truth to power. So if one of our jobs is to speak truth to power, how dare you tell a journalist not to have an opinion on the public discourse? So if he wants to be a journalist, there are crash programs, 3-month crash programs that we can enroll in. I'm sure if he goes, I don't want to mention schools, there are certificate courses where they can tell him what the job entails. It's not for him to sit there like an emperor and begin to tell journalists how to do their jobs. So I think lessons learned. Maybe it's a media person, Larry Olayinka. I don't know how well he's also grounded as a journalist. Anyways, whether he didn't go to any journalism school, probably should school him on what the role of journalist is in a democracy.
Trends in the papers, Mainland 98.3 FM. My name is Sage Babalola. You've been hearing from our in-house analyst, Fuad Side, and we were just going over some of the stories that a lot of people had so much to say, especially over the weekend. It sort of spills into this morning report, but the analysis provided by Fuad Side sort of encapsulates the entire thing. Let's go forward. The Punch newspaper. Talks intensify as Bauchi governor delays ADC defection. Now, the People's Democratic Party in Bauchi State have defended Governor Bala Mohammed's apparent hesitation in joining the African Democratic Congress following his recent announcement of plans to defect from the party. Speaking with the Punch on Sunday, the state PDP publicity secretary Dayuba Chiroma said ongoing consultation were responsible for the delay, noting that the governor was carefully weighing his option to avoid making a wrong move. The governor, alongside Governor Seyi Makinde, backed Tanimu Turaki-led National Working Committee of the PDP, and both the High Court and the Appellate Court voided the convention that brought in the leadership. For our side, just as expected, a lot of people, or should I say a lot of skepticism, have started to show up, especially with the current dilemma that now faces the ADC, interpretation of court judgment and status quo antebellum. Over the weekend, I actually watched a commentary by the lawyer that represented David Mark in court, and he had a conversation around even INEC's action is something of contempt of court, because they were mentioned, or they were party in that suit. And if the court says that everyone should maintain status quo antebellum, that particular pronouncement is binding on INEC as well, and that INEC should not have done anything at all. There was an interview as well with Joash Mokbito, our senior colleague. Dr. Ruben Abati interviewed him. I really couldn't get anything concrete when he was asked his interpretation of status quo antebellum and the timeline that should have been affected by that pronouncement, but I didn't really get any concrete answer. Perhaps you did, and you could help us understand it. And because of all of this drama for outside, what we thought would happen, the defection of the Bauchi state governor and the Oyo state governor has hit a deadlock, because they're scared. What if we get into the party and the chaos continues with just 9 months to the general elections?
Well, let me just start with the issue of Bala Mohammed and his options.
Yeah.
Whether he has an option or he doesn't have an option, that's his problem. And I think Nigerians should be very careful to begin to overbother themselves with the moves that these politicians are making. It's the same thing, actually, Sage. You can see that, look, it's just like the same river but different entry points. In thinking, in philosophy, in ideas, our politicians are not different. They are the same of the same. But like the young ones, we used to say, they say pick your battles, pick and choose your struggle. And I think that's the option that is there for Nigerians ahead of 2027. So that's why when people call in sometimes say, oh, the people in ADC, they destroyed the country. I say, what are the people in APC? Okay, so all the PDP governors that have moved to the APC now, they too wake up tomorrow and begin to condemn the PDP or condemn the opposition. Is that how it works? The reality is that, look, we can continue to deceive ourselves that we are not already in a one-party state. What we have is a one-party state masked as multi-party democracy. Because multi-party democracy thrives when philosophies are different, ideas are different, thinking of politicians in those parties are different. Why do you think America is considered one of the most successful multi-party democracies in the world, It is because there are distinct ideologies of all the political parties. Yes, there's a unifying factor. That's America's interest. That one, they will never disagree on that. America first. It now depends on the way they want to push the agenda. But in Nigeria, it's the same thing. Politicians are only after their own selfish personal interest. So when we talk about activities within the political space, we discuss rule of law, we discuss democracy. We are not about any individual or political parties, because again, at the end of the day, same of the same. So for Bala Mohammed, if he appears in the APC tomorrow, so be it. If he doesn't appear in any political party, so be it. When what has even been his impact as governor of the state in the first place? So let's put that aside. On the issue that has been raging, we extensively discussed it yesterday. Status quo antebellum. That's been the everybody has become a lawyer now, right?
Yeah. And
you can see that people are now interpreting this order of the court, based on their political preferences and ideas, and we understand that. Look, you can't wake somebody pretending to sleep. Look, I've listened to about 3 former officials of INEC, legal officials of INEC. A lot of them senior lawyers when they were in INEC, who were also legal advisors to INEC. And all of them have been unanimous in their opinion as to the fact that, look, Professor Joshua made a very terrible error. He's a senior advocate of Nigeria, and they thought that he should have known better. I listened to Monday Ubani and some other senior lawyers who have said that, look, let us comprehensively analyze the order of the court stage. Maintain status quo antebellum. In literary terms, go back to the period before the problem started. I mean, that's what it means, Sage. We are ordering you, all parties, INEC including, since you are a party to the suit, can you please go back to the state of where the ADC was before the problem was started? So what was the situation? The question now, INEC interpretation is to remove the entire leadership of the party stage. Is that the interpretation, commonsensically speaking now? Is Joshua Mukpito, professor of law, saying his own interpretation is that, look, going back to the situation of the party before the problem started meant that they had no leadership? See, because that's what is interpretation. They had a lengthy explanation, and that's why if Abusi don't enter matter, there will be too many explanations. See, a very simple matter. That was why INEC had to do about 7-10 pages of explanation on a very simple matter, and that's why hypocrisy has crept into the matter. What we are saying is that if Joshua Mukpito SAN saying that status quo antebellum of the ABC meant that they had no leadership before the crisis started stage. And that's why people are saying that, look, if you will not go back to when in July, when the neck of the party dissolved its entire cabinet. Look, are you aware that when the party was handed over to David Mark and Co., this Nonfiu Balagondo was in that meeting stage?
Yes.
He was there.
Well, he says his resignation, that the letter, his signature was forged on said letter.
Look, let's not assume we are going to get there. In July, the neck of the party, dissolved the entire cabinet of the party.
Yes.
And decided that, look, there should be an interim leadership to continue to run the show for the party, which was now supposed to be ratified in this upcoming convention. Yes. At that time they wrote to INEC. INEC monitored that process. INEC accepted their correspondence, and it was on that basis that they recognized the David Mark leadership of the party. Yes. At that point, nobody raised any issue. Then 2 months after, in September, Nonfiu Gombe started. Somebody must have triggered it. That's what we are saying. So, after July, when the party was handed over to David Mark and Co., right, there was no problem. Yeah. Nonfiu Gombe was alive. He didn't say anything until September. So, September was when the problem started, when hostility started. What was the condition of the party before September stage?
You can as well go back to Ralph and Wolfson, Abi.
Or if you don't want to stay on the map, why not even go back to where Ralph Wolfson's committee was? So why do you delete the entire leadership of the party? Is it not a common sense issue? And the sad part of the whole thing you now have is that everybody now, because of somebody was even calling yesterday that he has read the entire constitution of the ABC. I say you. So suddenly the ABC is a party that you read their constitution, pali for pali. So see, we cannot continue to pretend to be sleeping when in reality we are just doing ourselves in. And that was why I said that, and I'm picking for by psychologist's words that look, if he looks like a cat, walks like a cat, cries like a cat, say, now cat too. The way we are going, like Fᴜᴜ said, in 2027, I think we shouldn't even bother. Okay, look at the PDP now. So would you consider the PDP now in a position? Which is PDP?
Well, I really don't know how they intend to do it, because he's supposed to be the leader of the party, right? And he's going to support the president. So how would the party bring up a candidate if the leader of the party has clearly told us who's going to be supporting, who is the opposition?
No, that is the kind of opposition they want for us in the country. And that was when somebody was engaging me. I don't know. I don't even pray that the AGC should even solve their problem. In fact, what I want is that you should just be the APC alone in 2027. So it makes the job very easy. I mean, we will not stress ourselves. Is that not better?
That they were not a monarchy. It would be so
see, in Cameroon, don't they have a democracy there? In Cameroon.
Please don't even let us get into democracy in Africa as a whole. We're not going to live here.
Sage, in Cameroon, do you think Obia is doing it alone?
Obviously.
Are you aware that there will be Cameroonians who will continue to defend what Obia is saying? That it doesn't matter. It's okay.
Are they not the ones that name adjust the constitution?
And don't you know that there will be legislators too? There will be political party members in Cameroon who will be telling you, oh, this is about the constitution. We adjusted the constitution. So they are always enablers. You have citizen enablers, legislator enablers, judiciary officers who are also enablers. So let us even enable what we are saying now. Let it continue like that. But let it be on record that we said that we now sort you out when the kata start.
Let's move forward. Federal government hikes 2026 borrowing plan by 11 trillion naira. The federal government has increased its borrowing plan for 2026 to 29.20 trillion, following an expansion in the proposed budget size, according to official document proposed by and obtained rather by the Punch on Sunday. Because of our time, let's just summarize this. Right, our total budget is around 68.32 trillion naira, and our borrowing before was 17.89, but now it has increased to 29.20 trillion naira. Our revenue target is 36.8 trillion, and our deficit has risen to 31.46 trillion naira. Of course, the majority of our deficit to be funded through borrowing, and our debt servicing is about 15.81 trillion naira. Now, although our capital, or the amount of money that has been allocated for capital, 32.29 trillion, but a combination of our debt servicing and our recurrent expenditure still dominates the budget structure, which is causing a lot of Nigerians, especially economies, to be concerned that we continue to expand the budget, expand our deficit, expand our debt service, and then we have this unrealistic belief that we're going to earn a significant amount of money, especially for a country that has little or no control of market forces.
Say this again, a little breakdown. Now, we've pushed the budget forward to about 68 trillion, close to 70 trillion, right? Yeah. So, and the deficit of that budget is about 31 trillion.
Yes.
Now, we have now expanded our borrowing plan to about 29 trillion. So, the deficit will be heavily, about 90% funded through borrowing.
Yes.
So, now, again, we can put all of the indices on the table, The question is, what are we expanding the budget for? Let's ask ourselves. Look, if, as of 2025, there was a revelation that over 70% of our capital expenditure was not funded, what is going to change in 2026? So these big borrowings that we're seeing, these expanded budgets that we're seeing, to what end? What do we intend to achieve with it? Are we also going to get to a point where we'll do all of these borrowings, and then by the end of 2026, we'll also get a revelation that the capital component of the budget was not funded? So we now ask ourselves, what then are we doing with the revenue? What then are we doing with this money we are borrowing? This was a government that promised Nigerians, once I take off subsidy, we'll channel these monies into fixing infrastructural gaps of the country. Can we truly say that we've been able to do that if it is being revealed that we are not even able to fund the capital expenditure component of our budget to as high as over 70%? So we cannot just continue this cycle of, every year we present a budget, they do a budget performance analysis and it's less than 20%. It does not make any sense. It does not just make any sense.
Right. Fuad, we need to pick up the pace a little bit. Punch tells us here that Atiku Abubakar has hired the services of a lobbying firm that's supposed to help facilitate meeting, also play some advisory roles in policy making. That's about $1.2 million for 12 months. He's allowed to pay in installment 6 times, sort of like to correct the notion of him or his policies that the West might have taken a page from the playbook of the Nigerian government. I don't know to what end. Perhaps you could help us understand why it's necessary for him to launder his image via this firm.
Well, I don't know whether it's, again, that's what you said. Again, perception management. These lobbying firms are there at the job they do. Yeah. We've seen the government, for example, agreeing to a $9 million deal with another lobbying firm. 4.5 million already being paid to be paid, the additional 4.5 to be paid. And somehow we've seen that, have you noticed that the tension has dropped? See, Donald Trump's concentration on Nigeria and the government. Have you noticed that? Have you noticed that it has dropped?
Yeah.
So for people who are wondering, what does public relations do? What does the lobbying firms do? That's what they do. Seeing the wife of the president appear in the prayer session at the White House is also part of the job. And have you noticed that, we're going to come gun blazing, it's a disgraced country, the government better wake up. Have you not noticed everything has gone down?
Even
the tension
is more circumspect when he puts
it's not dry, it is not the whole dry anymore.
Yeah.
Despite all of the killings, we've seen recently, have you not noticed that it appears that America has not even said anything, really, apart from Riley Moore, who was a bit measured on his commentaries. So, I really don't know what Atiku Abubakar wants to achieve with this PR contract that we use to this lobbying firm. He also wants to, but it's just unfortunate thing that we have to now present ourselves in front of Donald Trump and this current American government. And unfortunately, if you look at the democratic records of this same government that we are presenting ourselves to, it's just unfortunate.
Exactly.
But that's where we are as a people. I don't know how Donald Trump would be the standard, really. And why everybody has now go and subject himself or herself. It's ridiculous that after almost 26 years of sustained democracy, in this fourth republic experiment, this is where we are. We have to look up to America to help come and take care of the mess our politicians have created. Very unfortunate.
We continue to audition for the West. It's a very gory sight to see. I'll read the rest of the headlines that we have here. INEC suspend voter revalidation exercise amid timing and other concern. If you remember, INEC has said they're going to revalidate those who had registered.
I don't know how they want to achieve that. 9 months to the election. So they should just not bother, because what it means that a lot of people will not bother with it.
Yeah, it's been suspended.
To even register to get the PVC problem, you now want to say people should go and invalidate.
Yeah, well,
a lot of people will just not bother.
Had died. A lot of people have registered twice. They just want to fill
the person. Wait. There's enough gatekeeping measures. At least you don't vote without you being accredited.
Yeah.
There's beavers. So if you are dead, you will not. What it means that you will not appear now at the polling unit.
Well,
And then with the checks we have now with our voting system, it's difficult for anybody to just go and vote or vote for someone else who is not at the ballot. That's why you have beavers and all these other things. They should not mess up the entire thing. And that's why people are warning to on the professor. He has to be very careful.
thank you for it. We have to go. We're pressed for time. Thank you for your analysis. Please stick around. We still have mainland focus coming up in another 10 minutes. Don't go anywhere.